the word soggy just does something to the human brain.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Brandstetter, founder and podcast producer at Max Podcasting. And you can email me at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. This is episode 2 to the 2 to the 3, which is a mouthful. And today's guest is Desiree Haller. Desiree is the founder and CEO of SubSafe, which keeps your subs safe and not soggy. And by subs, of course, I mean submarine sandwiches or, heroes, blimpies, hoagies, whatever in the world you want to call them. But subs, everybody loves them. And if you mix them with coolers, it is not necessarily the best match in the world. So SubSafe keeps them fresh, keeps them cool, and keeps them not soggy. And in this interview, we talk how SubSafe came to be, how to create a culture that is super entrepreneurial and even has employees that go off to start businesses on their own one day, and the best kind of pickles, too many open containers of mustard, and pumping your own gas, or not pumping your own gas. It is Desiree. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Desiree Haller, founder and CEO of SubSafe, a business super duper close to my heart because I love subs and I love eating. So thank you for all you do for that world, but a really, really cool business that keeps innovating and innovating. Desiree, thank you so much for joining. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Max. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Of course. I've never felt sub-safer, so thank you. But really excited to get into the SubSafe story and beyond. And one of the things that jumped out at me about your background is that you and your husband sold a boat to as part of the development of your business. And I know that you love being on the water, so Can you share what made you sell the boat and kind of what your experience was mentally getting rid of that?
It wasn't an easy decision, that's for sure. The irony behind it all is that the concept started on a boat and ended with us selling the boat to bring it to fruition. We were a young couple starting a family, and we didn't have a lot of extra cash capital to put into this initially, so we did things slow as we could afford it, and then it just ultimately came down to, if we're going to do this and we're going to place this first order, then we needed a significant amount of capital. So it came down to us selling one of the biggest assets that we had at the time.
Oh man, and what was we'll pour one out for it real quickly. What was the best memory you had on that specific boat?
Probably just bringing the kids out on the weekend. We have sandbars near here, and we still very much live this life. But looking back, it's your kids are only young once, right? For such a small amount of time. So seeing them in diapers on that boat is definitely the best memory.
I'm just trying to make you emotional. No, I appreciate you sharing it, but that's really, really hard if you have to sacrifice something like that. You hear about so many entrepreneurs that sacrifice a lot when building their business. It could be time, their personal time, or could be, material possessions, and could be even things that you live in or spend time in. So that was a big, big decision. But what ultimately did that unlock for you in the business when you did end up selling the boat?
Well, we had gone through all the stages, right? We had gone through product development and R&D, and we had gotten prototypes, and we had done the patent process and the trademarking, and all of that we were able to do in, just on our own time and as we could afford it. But when it came down to placing that first order for not only the product itself, but for the tooling, which is, especially with plastic injection, it's very expensive. So we just had to make a sacrifice, and we just kind of looked at each other and said, we've come this far, we might as well go all in. And at the end of the day, I just remember telling him our first order was 7,500 units, and that was the smallest amount of for the MOQ that the manufacturer would do for us. And I just kind of said, all right, if nothing else, we will find a way to sell those 7,500 units. We will find 7,500 sub-loving people to sell these, and we will get another boat. So it all worked out in the end, and definitely no regrets. I think if anything, it helped us have that extra hustle to really make a real sacrifice rather than finding an investor and having someone just give us money right from the beginning. And ultimately, I think that's why we were able to obtain investors later, because they respected our story and the sacrifices that we had made.
And for anybody who's not familiar, including me, what does MLQ stand for?
Oh, minimum order quantity.
Oh, MOQ. I thought it was MLQ. I was like, this is a new. Okay, minimum order quantity makes sense. I wonder what that means. No, I'm just kidding. So let's get to the SubSafe story. So, sticking with alliteration, I'm a sucker for alliteration, and appreciate you having that in your business name with all the S's. But I love subs. Who doesn't enjoy a good time on a boat or out in the summer with the cooler and food and drinks and all of that. So really, really just fun vibes all around your business. So how did this? We skipped ahead a little bit at the start because that boat nugget is so fascinating. But how did this idea for SubSafe come about in the very first place?
So initially, the idea was my husband's. Even before we got together, he did a lot of offshore fishing. He introduced me to that world, and especially here where we live, it's not just going down to the side of the beach or the water or the river and throwing a line. It's going 40 miles offshore and planning to be out for 12 hours, bringing everything you need for the duration of these long trips. And one of the easiest things to do for any of us is stop. There's a Subs restaurant on every single corner in America, right? So it's like, what sounds better than a giant sandwich when you're starving out there and you've been reeling in fish hopefully all day long. So yeah, the idea was my husband's. He would always stop, get a sandwich, and then by the end of the day, half of it was floating in the cooler. Now, whether that was because the Ziploc bag leaked, or it just he left it in the wrapper and tried to position it on top. So then somebody else is in there grabbing a drink and it's falling to the bottom, and it was just inevitable. Every single time he would come home and it would be this disgusting, soggy mess still left in the cooler. He just kept saying, why is there not a container for this? Why is there not something on the market? And me at the time, I was like, it has to be. It has to be. I'll go to Bed Bath and Beyond. I'll get on Target online. I'll get on Amazon. I will find you something that is waterproof and that will work from not only it getting wet, but it getting crushed as well. Because once it's been smushed, that already the integrity of the sandwich is already compromised. So I looked everywhere. And then I went back to him. I think it was before Father's Day or his birthday. It was one of his holidays. And I was like, I really wanted to come in the knight in shining armor and give you this sandwich container for this holiday. And I legitimately couldn't find it. So he, being my eternal optimist, was like, oh, well, we should do that. And I was like, oh, how? What have you ever manufactured a product or brought an idea to fruition? I certainly haven't. It was just kind of that light bulb moment during that conversation where we realized it didn't exist, and we felt that we could maybe do it, but we weren't convinced. It took some time and pulling of some resources and some research to then get to the point where we decided we wanted to fully move forward with it.
That is so crucial that you were focused on the integrity of the sandwich, because that is something that is very important to me as well. But that's such an awesome organic story, because I think so often the best business ideas come from experiences, pain points that you're seeing out there in the wild. And from your husband's standpoint, it was literally, maybe 40 miles offshore, but like this is something that he had seen time and time again, and you guys thought there had to be a solution for it. And I just love that energy of, well, we don't see it anywhere. Let's create it ourselves. So I'm pumped up. I'm hungry as well. Thank you. But so SubSafe. So what were some of the initial steps to actually creating the product?
Long before we even had the idea, we were huge Shark Tank fans. I mean, we we are that couple that we're watching every episode. We've seen every single one. So we knew enough just from the show alone about the process. And I remember saying this to him, like, even though it's not on the market, doesn't mean Tupperware or Rubbermaid or one of these huge companies haven't already patented it. And it's not, on the market yet. So I, again, was a little bit more pessimistic. I was like, look, the first step, we have to talk to a patent attorney. We have to just find out if it's already been patented. Because even if we weren't going to pursue a patent on it, which we did, we can't be infringing on somebody else's, right? The last thing we wanted was a lawsuit. So that was where we started. We got in contact with a patent attorney and had them do preliminary searches. They didn't come up with anything. We actually had two different patent attorneys we spoke to because I think I mentioned it's a big investment to really pursue patents. You can get certain ones, of course, are cheaper and temporary, but we were just kind of like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it. We're going to go after a full utility and a design patent, and we are going to just get as protected as we can because it's a big step and it was a lot of money to spend. So yeah, that was the first step, and that was the first realization that we had something that could potentially be a tangible product and that we would be safe moving forward with it.
How many iterations went into that initial SubSafe design?
Oh man, the main thing that I would say about that, I would say we probably had 5 to 6 changes in the design from the beginning. And once we had the initial applications done for the patent, then we felt safe speaking to people about it, right? Because the last thing you want to do is run around town, and especially the internet, talking about your idea before you've done anything to protect yourself. So we started talking to people, and that's when we had friends and family, and they would come and give us ideas. For instance, one of the ideas was, well, why not make the ends? Originally, it was just completely rounded. And then someone said to us, which we're eternally grateful for, why don't you flatten the ends a little bit so then it can be used as a cup as well? And it will stand straight up, not only in the cooler, but without rolling over, but also, if somebody's on the boat and they forgot a cup, then they would then have it for that. And so that changed the idea. That was actually a pretty expensive change because we had already filed design applications at that point. So we had to go back and file new ones. But it ultimately ended up being such a great business move because we now have a drinking lid that fits on the SubSafe. So it created a whole new product and a whole new use for the SubSafe.
So besides that versatility, what would you say is like the biggest differentiator besides a SubSafe container and like some other containers that you might find out there on the market?
Good question. So the other thing that we did was we created the SubSafe to be 3 pieces. That way you can do the base with a cap, and that's for a 6 to 8 inch sandwich, or you can do the base with the large piece, and then it's anywhere from a 10 to 13 inch sandwich. So we wanted it to be a versatile product to where you didn't have to buy two. You could eat half, cap it off, throw it back in the cooler, free up a little more space in the cooler. The main thing is quality. The way that our threading with the silicone ring works together, it makes it completely watertight. And unlike traditional plastic storage containers where the lids can pop off, the main thing, you're running potentially 30 miles in a boat and the cooler is bouncing up and down and people are in there grabbing beer and throwing stuff around and dumping beer in it, and we needed a very high quality container, which is what we created. The plastic is extremely thick. The threading is very durable. That's what set us apart. And of course, the fun colors. They're like really amazing colors.
I actually hate fun color. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, so if you look at your site now, you have like the original SubSafe, and then you have multiple versions of that, different sizes, different subs and sandwiches in mind. You also have wine safe. You have like ice focused products. Like you've really expanded to lots of different objects or foods or drinks that could, come in handy when you're out on the water. Nice little voice crack there. Out on the water, or like, just doing whatever, having a picnic, whatever, tailgating. How do you and team come up with these different, I guess they're almost like line extensions, like these new types of products to add to your mix of your company overall?
It's a combination of things. First being that we are our market, right? We're on the boat all the time. It's in our product's not just for boating. I know I always revert back to that because that is such a huge part of our life, but it's tailgating, it's camping, it is golfers, it is hiking. We just have a really, really wide market, beachgoers. But like I said, that we're living that life every weekend with our kids and being outdoors and packing coolers. So what we came to find out was there aren't any accessories on the market for the cooler, except for the basket. There are a lot of coolers that do have a basket for you to kind of separate things. But if you are somebody who is planning to spend the entire day outside and pack everything that you need, the drinking ice, the drinks themselves, the snacks for the kids, the sandwiches, salads, leftovers, whatever is going into the cooler, our job is to make sure the wine, once you open a bottle of wine, it's spilling out in the cooler, or champagne especially. So yeah, that was kind of our goal, to just keep evolving into, our slogan is a cooler lifestyle, and we really truly live by that, and just want to create products that make people that enjoy the outdoors, makes their lives easier, and products you can rely on and know that when you open the cooler at the end of the day, everything is still intact.
A cooler lifestyle. That's really cool. I appreciate puns a lot, probably too much. What went into that tagline?
We tossed around a couple different ones, and I had two amazing employees at the time. They've both gone on to start their own businesses. I'm so happy for them. I miss them dearly. But we were just tossing them around, and I blurted out that one, and both their eyes lit up, and they were like, "That's it, that's the one." So we are a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle brand, and it's a brand to make your life easier, and that's just kind of stuck.
You stumbled onto something there that you hear about a lot with entrepreneurial leaders in entrepreneurial companies, is that if you have awesome employees that want to start their own business one day, like you have two options. You can be like, no, we really want you here, or you can be like, you know what, go for it. Like I totally don't blame you. Like I'm in the same boat. I'm so happy I started my own business, and it sounds like you have a couple examples there, and maybe even more, of people that have gone on to do that. How did you navigate that when they ultimately came to you and said, I have this dream somewhere else I want to do? Like, what would that look like from your perspective?
I mean, the initial reaction, of course, was sadness to see them go. But on the other hand, I was immediately flattered because I knew that I also inspired them. And that makes me really, really happy, just to know that I instilled in them some just characteristics or qualities that gave them the motivation and security to just do something like that, to go out on their own. And the other thing that lessened the blow, I guess you could say, is that they both still work very closely with us, and we still outsource our services with them. I still get everything in the pretty package with the boat with them. So it was the best case scenario. But no, I would never want to ever, the potential of owning your own business is endless. And especially us, at that time, we're still a very small business, so I can't accommodate what they were worth. So I'm so glad that they're able to do it for themselves.
Yeah, it's like a really bittersweet thing, but you clearly have created a culture there where you inspire people, and you find people to partner with that are on the same mission and want a cooler lifestyle as well. But what else has gone to shaping the brand and kind of lifestyle aspects surrounding SubSafe, to the point that when consumers see SubSafe, they feel that kind of like boat adventure cooler vibe?
I think a lot of listening to the customers and listening to the feedback has really helped us evolve. We're big on attending trade shows. I'm big on cash and carry shows, which is more like a boat show where we're actually selling to consumers directly instead of typical trade show. You're just looking for retail buyers. But nonetheless, you're getting feedback at both. Besides that, it's just choosing your influencers really well so that you are in front of the right viewers. And that's been big for us. And how you advertise. That's certainly been a fun road to navigate with all the changes of Facebook and social media advertising. What we did in the beginning looks nothing like what we do now for success. Just trying to keep it cool. My husband and I are getting older. We're just just had to rely on younger people to keep us cool.
You take that back. You guys are young yourself. But it's so true that like forms of advertising and getting the word out change so rapidly these days. It's like why even bother doing what people are doing now? It's like might as well just invent some new form of communication for 10 years from now. But like at the time of this recording, what would you say is working most effectively right now in terms of advertising?
Right now, everything is all about TikTok and Reels on Instagram. I cannot tell you how much I loathed the thought of getting on TikTok just because it was something new to learn. And I was so intimidated by it. Like I said, I don't know, I felt out of place. But now that we have gotten in there and we've seen some great success, I highly recommend it. But that's kind of where it's at right now for us anyway. And a lot of other Shark Tank companies we've spoken to.
And shout out Instagram for literally taking any new popular feature from any other platform and making their own. I mean, Reels is basically TikTok for Instagram, and it works really, really well. I mean, people are on it all the time. But like, what sort of strategy, besides me like dugging as I do all the time, what other strategy has like worked well on TikTok or Instagram Reels as far as SubSafe goes?
I think just keeping it real.
Nice, no pun intended there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I didn't even think about it when I said it.
It's a cooler lifestyle. All right.
I was so used to planning the photo shoots and hiring the models and staging everything perfectly in the past because then it would either go to print or it would go on our website or that was kind of the way or go into an ad and we were trying to capture that perfection. And now I think everyone is gravitating towards, I'm going to say it again, realness. And they want to see me in the warehouse with no makeup on, slinging boxes, because that is actually what happens, 4 days a week. That is just connecting to people on just a more organic level is what seems to be working for us right now. And sharing the hardships too, not making everything so pretty, saying that, oh my gosh, today sucked and that's okay. And tomorrow will be better. And yeah, that's kind of what we're finding is working.
And speaking of getting the word out to people, you've alluded to Shark Tank a couple times. So what, you hear a wide range of experiences with Shark Tank. Obviously it's great from a publicity standpoint, but a lot of different things can happen there. But what was the biggest, change that you've seen in your business since you appeared?
For us, it was more like what didn't change. We had an incredible experience. We were a very, very new, I call us a baby company at that time. We had only been, I think it was right around 3 months that we had been, just even had our product and were even selling. That's how new we were. And which is rare. Usually when you see the entrepreneurs pitching, they're, a year or two at least into their process. So we filmed, we did get a deal. So the whole back end of our business changed drastically, the way that things were structured. We have business partners. It changed our capital situation. And then having the partners helping us and their employees and having that changed our business. And then we aired, right? And then the publicity set in and the sales and the exposure and then the reruns. And, so we have had, I mean, I can't really think of anything that's the same or would have been the same had we not done Shark Tank. But we're so grateful for it. And we're, I don't want to say one of the few, but we are so blessed to say that from beginning to end, it's been an incredible experience for us and kind of just the best case scenario.
I mean, 3 months, that is like inconceivable well, I guess it's 3 months, but like how early that is in the business. And for being on a national stage in front of, intimidating people like that, like that's crazy. I'm stressed thinking about it. Is there anything that you would have done really differently, just knowing what you know about the business now versus like when you were preparing that initial pitch then?
I don't know that we would have done anything differently. I think that we kept it really real. We did take a little bit of heat for our sales. We had $40,000 in sales when we went in there, but we didn't have to go back to, keeping it humble. We didn't have any money for advertising. So everything that we did was grassroots and just hitting the concrete, hitting the pavement ourselves. So I think a lot of people who watch Shark Tank or even the sharks themselves are expecting these big sales and these big numbers, but that comes along with the 100 grand that they spend on Facebook ads, and they don't comprehend that like I was proud of myself. I still have $40,000 in sales in a couple months when
I was gonna say that's really. I mean, I think most businesses are like barely any sales or like losing money in those first few months.
yeah, and we were 17. We had one product and it was $17. So we took a little heat for that, but just like I said, further explaining that to them and explaining that, and they still replay this one scene on the new episodes where I say we put everything we had into this, and I was kind of heated in that moment because they were. I think it was I don't. It was probably Kevin giving us a hard time, and I was like, "What? I don't think you guys understand. We didn't have a marketing budget by the time we got the product." And I looked at it and I was like, well, now what do we do? So, we had to figure it out.
Figure it out. That is what you need to do as an entrepreneur, as well as a podcaster. Whether you are one of those or both of those, or aspiring to be one of those or both of those, I have the newsletter for you. It is the Podcasting to the Max newsletter. It is a combination of podcasting and entrepreneurship. And you can sign up at maxpodcasting.com/newsletter. Now, let's get inspired. No, that's, like commercial that says expired. Inspiration and creativity. Let's do it. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's SubSafe our way to inspiration and creativity, which doesn't even make sense, but it always makes sense with SubSafe. So rolling with it. But this is more you on the personal side, like how you stay inspired, how you stay creative, and obviously you're a very inspiring person, an inspiring story yourself. But whether it's people or things you watch or listen to, in addition to Shark Tank, like what really fires you up and gets you, helps to keep your ideas flowing for the business?
I think it's seasonal for me that I just go through different seasons where certain things work and then they might stop working for a little while. So certainly, there are certainly some podcasts, but right now, what is really just probably my go-to is we have a Facebook group that's just for Shark Tank inventors. We are really close-knit group and we communicate all the time and we bounce ideas off each other. And I think that getting in there and seeing what other people are doing, and people, we're all very raw. So we share our successes and we share our failures. I think that's just kind of been in making sure that I have real relationships with other entrepreneurs, not just Shark Tank, just entrepreneurs in general. There's always going to be somebody doing more than you or doing different than you that is working better. And so just keeping conversations open with people is really where it's at.
What are some lessons on entrepreneurship and innovation that you see come up like time and time again from those fellow Shark Tank alums?
Whew.
I'm gonna make you list all of them for 20 minutes straight. No, I'm just kidding.
I think one of the main things is just be leery of pretty much everything and everyone. That is, you just
Including me. Sorry.
no, you seem cool, but just the retailers are, there's a lot of gray area in a lot of things that you will experience as a entrepreneur, and really learning to go slow and read the fine print on things is just so important. I've done bad deals where we didn't end up making any money or lost even. And I know so many other Shark Tank companies, you work with reps, and there's just so many things that can, if you're not on top of it, that can go wrong. And there's always somebody who wants to take advantage of you to make a buck. So I think that's probably the toughest lesson that I have learned and continue to learn. If it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is. So yeah, that's probably the main reoccurring one.
I'm going to get that printed in a giant sign on my wall. You seem cool. A quote from the queen of coolers. So thank you. It means a lot. So great you have that community and so many amazing lessons to learn. How about outside of work? So, you mentioned the interests in, boats and being on the water and, having fun time on the water or beach with your kids. What else do you do in your free time that helps you, feel more creative or maybe come up with ideas sometimes?
I mean, I spend a lot of time on social media following companies, accounts, and people who I aspire to be more like, and especially branding. Branding is such a huge, huge part of your business, and staying on brand and evolving your brand, even just from a design standpoint. That's big for me. I tend to be an anxious person because my mind never stops. So I'm huge on meditation and exercise. That's absolutely key for me to be sane. That's the best way to say it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I always think back to like when it's like a really long day at work and then like finally laid down in bed. It's like you would think that you'd be like, man, pass out instantly and like your mind would kind of like wind down. But no, that's like at least for me the time where it's just like my mind is like wide awake and it's just like, oh, like let's make sure you do this tomorrow or like do this, and then it's like it really takes that effort. I see why you get into exercise and meditation. You mentioned those, you find inspiration from following accounts on social media. What are some brand and or people accounts that are like really really inspiring that you follow?
I follow a lot of brands that I see buying SubSafe one day. So I follow cooler brands. I follow outdoor brands just to keep up with what they're doing and maybe even make sure they're not doing what I'm doing, right? So that's part of it. But I love like the female startup founders. I love following any sort of startup podcast. I'm a faith based person, so I follow a lot of faith based people because that always fills me up too.
Speaking of unusual questions, because I asked a lot of those, let's get to the unusual. So, you on the personal side talk about pet peeves, quirks, weird talents. So this totally has nothing to do with your business. Of course, you can tie it to it if you want to. But first off, what's a weird talent you have?
Well, we do a lot of dancing when it's just our family, and I'm not terrible.
Okay, it sounds like you're really good if you say it that way.
No, I have to. It has to be like just the family and maybe a little bit of wine for it to happen. But
Maybe a lot of it too.
yeah, yeah.
How about pet peeves? What's something that really, yeah, just annoys you a bit?
I absolutely hate pumping gas. That is just. I mean, I don't know what it is. It gives me anxiety. I don't want to stop.
You need to move to New Jersey. There you go. It's a perfect, perfect
Yeah,
stop.
they have full service, right?
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, I grew up in Ohio, so it's like still really strange to me to like would go to a gas station and like somebody else does it for you. But if you're somebody that doesn't like pumping gas, then it's perfect for you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm from Vermont, and they had a few. They had a few when I remember as a kid that were full service, and then in Florida we just don't have that. But yeah, that's probably my main. And then my husband does this thing where he'll open something before the other one is finished. Like he'll open a new mustard when we still have half a thing, and he just couldn't find the mustard for his sub sandwich that he's about to put in the sub safe. But yeah, that one gets me too because then you have no more room in the refrigerator if you have two of everything. So I would say those two. I really don't have anything negative to say about. We have the best customers. I mean, we just have the most down to earth people. They're so amazing. Every once in a while, you get somebody with that Amazon Prime mentality, even though which we are on Amazon Prime, but if they order from the website, we're a small business. It might take a day to get it out, and then you're on USPS time or UPS time, and I can't really control that. And every once in a while, you'll get a customer who's like, I ordered this 2 days ago. Why isn't it, already in my kitchen drawer, and it's like, oh, I can't, there's so many things out of my control. And that's so rare. Like I said, but that's probably the only thing from a business standpoint that irks me.
Yeah, I mean, Desiree, how dare you not drop everything else in your life and drive across country for me right now?
Yeah, exactly. Or have the tools that Amazon has to make that happen for you. I'm sorry I don't have
Right.
57 warehouses.
Probably like per capita.
Yeah.
And then how about quirks? What's something a little bit quirky about your personality that maybe your husband, your kids, business partner, somebody calls you out for, but it's who you are?
I know I make a really funny face when I put on makeup. I get made fun of for that a lot. I like pucker up my mouth, and then I like scrunch my nose a little bit. It's not cute. It's not cute at all. It's a very awkward, but it helps you focus.
I'm sure I do that same face when I put on makeup too, so it's funny. Uh, let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A. You ready for it?
Okay.
All right, let's go wild. What is your favorite type of sub of all time?
Plain old turkey and veggies.
Turkey. Wait, which veggies? What do you mean by veggies?
Okay, I like lettuce, tomato, onion, pickles.
We're getting very granular here, but what type of onion and what type of pickles?
I like the white sweet onions and as dill as they can come. Dill pickles.
Dill pickles. Shout out Rugrats. All right, so now that we know your full sandwich order, you mentioned your husband plenty of experience in offshore fishing, which I've talked with my dad about this because my dad has always said like it would be really really cool to do like a deep sea fishing or like something like that, like really far away, and it sounds like a really really cool experience. Except like my thing is I get seasick pretty easily, so that would not be good. But what's the craziest story or experience that your husband has from fishing that remotely?
He actually caught a Goliath grouper one time, and I'm gonna totally butcher the weight, but it was bigger. So he's what, 5'8"? It was bigger than him. So he was on the news with his friends. It required a couple of them to hold it up. It's a fish. They had to throw it back, but that was probably his moment. But we've brought in some huge mahi. We've had some good fishing experiences. That's for sure.
That is a Goliath grouper indeed. I can't even imagine. That's giant. I mean,
Yeah.
grouper is very, very well loved, but I imagine it's quite the struggle to to pull a life size one out of the water. What's a horror story that either you've heard about or experienced yourself as far as like food or drinks spilling in a cooler like that?
Oh my gosh, I've heard so many. As soon as people understand for the first time what our product does, it immediately triggers a soggy bread story. The word soggy just does something to the human brain, right? Like it
Oh
just sends
yeah, well, especially soggy bread. Like it has such a. I mean, there's certain words that I won't say them now to upset everybody, but like, there's certain words that historically people have had very like, ugh, just kind of chills reactions to,
yep.
and soggy is soggy is definitely one of them. And since like you said that at the start of the interview, I'm like, oh man, I just hate like soggy bread. That's awful.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody can stand soggy bread. So I hear stories all the time where, one of them was a really well-known company and boat brand, and they were doing their annual. I think they were taking out their board of directors or whatever. So they were going from South Florida over to the Bahamas, and that's probably at least an hour to an hour and a half trip by boat, and that's if you're really running. And they were going somewhere remote, so they packed public subs for the entire trip, and whoever packed the coolers, and we're talking, probably 20 people that they had to feed, they were all completely soggy by the time they got there. So they ended up having a grill on the boat, one of those small ones that fit in the gunnels, and they threw all the bread away, and they just ended up grilling the meat and cheese, and that's all they had to eat until I think they were getting picked up by plane, and then they were going to some swanky resort or something was going on, but they had no other food except for these sandwiches. And so anyway, they ended up placing a huge order with us when they found out about the product and telling us that story. I was like, this is why we do this. I know I'm not the only one to experience a failed sandwich in the cooler. So
Oh my god! And shout out Publix, which is almost as omnipresent in Florida as Amazon warehouses. But last one, you've lived in both Vermont and Florida, which slightly different climate there. Besides the weather, well, it could be the weather if you want, but like first thing that comes to your head, I just want to hear your answer. Best reason to move to Vermont and best reason to move to Florida.
whew, that's tough. Okay. I love both places to the point where we even have a small little summer home there still. Vermont is absolutely beautiful. If I can't talk about the weather, then I can't talk about the foliage, which is my favorite part. If I can't say foliage, then I would just say it's just fresh air. It's slower moving, it's less concentrated. It's just a different vibe. My husband always says as soon as we land, so he's like, "You're just happier here." I'm like, I just feel like I can relax here. But then what's not beautiful about Florida? We have so many incredible beaches, and you can live a lifestyle outside all year round. And there's so much to do and explore.
There is both really, really cool places. My wife, Dana's grandma Phyllis, lives in Vermont up in Manchester area.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so we recently visited her. And, Dana and I are always, when we go up there, like we love going up there, but if we're going up there in the winter, we're always like, oh my God, it's so cold up here. Like, how do you deal with this? And Phyllis this past time was like, yeah, it's cold, but I love it. Like, I love the air. Like, it is like a fresher, just like cleaner air up there, it feels like.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. We do a lot of skiing, and even just skiing there as opposed to out west, it just feels different. There's not as much pollution in the air.
Well, Desiree, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Just love what you do. Love the SubSafe story, and I could listen to your stories about fishing and life size grouper all day. But thanks so much for coming on. And where is the best place for people to try out SubSafe as well as connect with you online?
Absolutely. So the subsafe.com is our website. We have all 7 products and 2 new ones coming very, very, very soon. And we're also on Amazon and in Publix, delis. And then with us personally, SubSafe Co. is our handles for all social media.
Super cool. So see you at the next Publix and Amazon convention. But last thing, final thoughts. The stage is yours. It could be a quote, another awesome slogan, words to live by, whatever you want. Send us home here.
I think if I had to give anyone advice, it's just start somewhere. And if you have an idea, do not sit on it. Do not wait for somebody else to bring it to fruition. Just start somewhere and see it through, and find someone who can help you navigate the road of product development, because the world needs more entrepreneurs.
This is true. Get started and do it subsafely. Thank you so much, Desiree, for coming on the podcast, sharing the SubSafe story. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. If you want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to follow the Wild Business Growth Podcast on your favorite app and tell a friend about the podcast. And then go like deep or shallow sea fishing with, I don't even know the terminology. Go fishing with them or just hang out at the beach with them and try out SubSafe. You can also find us on Good Pods, where there are pretty good podcasts and podcast people and recommendations. And for any help with podcast production, you can learn more at maxpodcasting.com and sign up for the Podcasting to the Max newsletter at maxpodcasting.com/newsletter. Until next time, let your business run wild. Bring on the bongos!